Hi, friends and fellow Earth angels. In this video, I would like to talk to you about my mediumship sessions. Mediumship is so near and dear to my heart. And this type of reading is so multifaceted. And there are so many different types of mediums and mediumship readings. And those of you who have been following me for a while, I have come a really long way from my angel reading days. So I feel an updated video about what my sessions are like now could be helpful. So mediumship. Let me start with my background. So I was not born into a family who dabbled with, talked about, invested in the spiritual realms. I was raised as an Italian Catholic girly. I went to CCD, made my confirmation, did all the things under that umbrella, and had my struggles with it, to be honest. My mom had always said, my job is to get you through your confirmation, and then what you do with your faith after that is up to you. So I was on a journey. And I have to say, oh gosh, after that, I had really pushed God out of my life. I had lost my grandmother at a very young age, whom I was very close to. I understand now that after that, for many years, I was a young girl grieving the loss of her grandmother. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. I just woke up one morning and was told that she was gone. And that's just how things were done back then. And I don't think we truly understood the emotional development of the child in the way that we do it now. So I have to say, I had a lot of anger in me, a lot of rebellion, a lot of sadness, and I was really, really lost. I was just a lost girl. But the thing is, like, I didn't know it then, which made me very, very susceptible to the spirit of influence, to the programs of the world, and I was just being swallowed up and consumed. Now, I know now that this has been part of my journey. I have done a lot of work on myself for that time, and it really was a blessing because it got me where I am today. But I like to share, a little bit about my past because this wasn't something that, so yes, it was something that I was born with, but it was not something that was fostered. And I really had to find it. So, fast forward to my early 20s, I was just going through a really, really difficult time. And I had a friend who used to collect angels, and I was so drawn to them. And I started looking up angels. I started to question what that was. Looking back, I always feel like I knew there was something else. I felt like I knew I wasn't alone. And I also remember thinking in my darkest days that I just wanted to be like with that energy. I just didn't want to be here anymore on this planet. It was too hard. I was too sensitive. I didn't understand any of it. And again, this isn't feel bad for me, feel sad for me because this was the darkness that brought me to the light. And so I believe that in that very difficult, dark time in my life, very shadowy, hard time in my life, God sent his angels to come find me. Because at the time, like God and Jesus and Mary and none of that was really in my life. And so I was first introduced, my mom, gosh, she's always been so supportive of me and my unorthodox lifestyle. So she, at the time, heard about an angel reader. My mom knew I loved angels, and she gave me a gift certificate. I think it was like in 2004 or 5, for an angel reading. I'd never had a psychic reading before. I never had a mediumship reading, but I do remember holding it such a high regard. I didn't want to be disappointed, and I had so much respect for it, which again, that respect and that power that I held then is really what, to this day, I hold it in a high regard, a high, sacred, holy regard. So, through a series of events, I found myself at this beautiful soul. She was eventually going to be my mentor, my teacher, my guide. It was really life-changing for me. She connected me with my grandmother, and the first angel that she introduced me to was the Archangel Michael. And since that day, I have held on to Archangel Michael for dear life. Michael is my best friend. He's my bodyguard. He is my uh, light in the darkness when I'm up against a challenge or there's uncertainty. I call on Michael and ask him to just forge forward and clear the way for me. And so I always like to share Archangel Michael with everybody, really. So they were the first guys. And I was introduced to Michael and Raphael and my grandmother. And so as I was leaving that session, the reader said to me, Gladys, she goes, I believe we all have the ability to connect, with our loved ones and the spirit world. And she told me as I was walking down her stairs, offer classes and trainings. If you ever want to learn more, I'm here for you. Little did I know what those words were going to mean to me. And piqued my curiosity. And I remember getting in the car that day, looking at myself in the rearview mirror and saying, God, if this is real, prove it. And like, I think about it now, almost 18 years later of working in a private practice, it was like timelines changed. It was like just something opened up. And I was curious because I wanted to learn how to connect with my grandmother. I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to feel close to her, just like that teacher did. And so one of the first classes, I think it was the absolute first class that I ever took, was mediumship. And I laugh now because mediumship isn't an easy class to take when you have no experience in energy and the spirit world. Like, I was brand new and I just wanted to do it myself. And I remember thinking, I'm going to take this class. I'm never going to tell anybody. I remember reading books in my room, just keeping it hidden and quiet. And it just piqued my curiosity. I took the class. And at the end of the class, in order to get our certificate, we had to do 10 readings. And I remember emailing the teacher and saying, I didn't plan on letting anybody know this is what I'm doing. And she said, just send an email out to the closest people to you and see what happens. And that's what I did. And I'll never forget the people who responded to that email. I would have never thought in a million years would be interested. And then the people that I thought would respond just never did. They were just never interested, or they just never did. And it was just life changing for me. That whole time period was life changing. And that's where it started. I started to really enjoy doing readings for people. I ended up going out with that teacher and a group out to Sedona, Arizona, where everything opened. Again, it was my first trip on my own by myself, and I met up with a group of people. It was so wonderful. I aligned and connected with so many lovely souls on that trip. And at the time, I was working as a paralegal, working in a law firm doing real estate. And I remember driving home I mean, I'm sorry. I remember leaving the hotel and I was on a shuttle heading back to the airport. And I felt like a plug was just being unplugged. Like I was a energy battery plugged in, and I literally felt the energy just disconnect. And I felt like I was being unplugged from a battery or a wall. And I just started crying, thinking about like my future and having to go back home into this cubicle. At the time, we had 100, I was in real estate. So we had 100 files on our desk that could go anytime. It was just hard, especially for someone like me, because that is not, it's just not the type of work for me. But I didn't know that at the time. And I vowed, friends, to change my life, that I was no longer going to live that way. That was May of 2007. Now, I had been taking other classes and other trainings, during that time. And by September of 2007, if you remember, it was a really hard time for real estate. The attorney that I worked for laid me off. And I had been praying for that. I remember that August before I was let go, crying on my teacher mentor's couch, just hating my life, having to go to work, and just all the things that were happening in the real estate field was at the time just was unethical. And I just felt like it was terrible what was happening to people. And uh, by the grace of God, I was let go. And I didn't know what I was going to do. There was a job that I had applied for that I didn't get. And it was true faith and true testament of like, what am I going to do now? I don't want to go back and do this work, and yet where am I going? And so I was able to collect unemployment. And again, by some miracle, one of the friends that I had made on the Sedona trip knew an acupuncturist who was looking to expand her wellness center, and she reached out to me and said, hey, this acupuncturist is looking to expand her wellness center. She's willing to offer you a room and a space. And I took it. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to work out. I wasn't really making any money at the time, but I trusted. And the person I was with at that time said to me, if you're going to do it now. And I did. Long story short, here I am 18 years later. And so I tell people now, if you're gonna tempt fate or you're gonna challenge God, be ready for what he has in store for you. Because that moment when I said, if this is real, God, prove it. And then in the blink of an eye, now that I look back, my whole life changed. And now technically I'm working for the man. I have the absolute best, loving, kindness, wonderful boss. And I'm so grateful and so lucky. I'm humbled and honored to be able to do this work. It truly is special to me. So, that being said, mediumship sessions. When I first started doing this work, I I wanted to be very clear and very specific with my messages. I didn't like the feeling when I was training of not really knowing or trusting myself. It could be this or could be that. So I asked God to just make it very, very specific. And so I call myself an evidential medium, which I do have a little definition here that I want to read. So there's so many mediumship and mediums are a spectrum. We all have unique gifts. And so the best way I can describe, I channel a holy mediumship, meaning it is sacred and it is nurturing and it is profound and it is deep, and every single reading is different and specific to the person that's coming into the office. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful, is it's so specific. And so an evidential medium channels specific and verifiable information about deceased loved ones. And that's the thing. I am always looking for specific and verifiable messages. Sometimes people will ask me, for example, if their loved ones are okay, if their loved ones are at peace. Now, I can certainly say yes, and I do because they always are, but I don't leave it there. I go in and I connect with that person and I ask them to give me very specific insight as to what heaven is like for them. And it's always going to be in alignment with who that person is. What's been happening, at least over the last 8 years or so, is that I have started to become what I call the therapist to the spirit world, psychotherapist to the spirit world, meaning people are here living their lives. And there's a lot of things that they don't know. And sometimes people are just old school. Sometimes people are hurtful to other people and they don't realize it until they get to the other side. You know, some dads and grandpas are stubborn and very old school. And sometimes when they get to the other side, they realize how their behavior affected people. So, this is why I say it's like holy and sacred because we go deep. There is a level of peace that these messages bring in for myself and people in general that I can't even describe in words. And so that's what these sessions have become over time. They're very therapeutic and they're very deep. The evidential medium aspect of it, and then also because I am a seer, which is a person who sees into the spirit world and can gain insights and wisdom from the energy. So in sessions, sometimes I can pick up on what is going on in people's lives. Very specific examples of situations come up in people's lives. And then people's loved ones and the divine, always with the divine, help people through those times. And, you know, basically, I work with death for a living. I work with the dead. I work with the unseen. I work with the shadow. And there's so much power and wisdom and insight in it when you are in full surrender and trust to the Lord, I will say. So I have worked with people who have lost loved ones to suicides, overdoses, accidents, unknown deaths. Now, I can't promise murders was another. I've done quite a few of those. I can't promise to solve a mystery. I can't promise to say that your loved ones will tell me, but it does happen. Sometimes people pass away and it's unexplainable, and people don't know what happened. And people come into the office, and as we're into it, the story starts to come out. I've learned so much about overdose and suicides that I believe give people a deeper sense of understanding what happened. To lose somebody so abrupt, so quick, I feel like it's jarring and can fracture the soul and the spirit. And so the work that I do is always intended to bring some kind of peace. Now, I cannot give you what you want to hear. I cannot tell you what you want to hear. I work for the Lord. I work for the divine, And I truly am a medium in the sense of think of it as like a translator. I take in information through visions, through words, through stories. I take in information and then I give it to the client exactly as I get it. And so think about a person who translates Portuguese to English, right? If that person in the middle started changing the messages and changing the story and changing the words, you're going to have two different conversations going on. So my job isn't easy in the sense that I can tell people these very specific things, and yet I still have no idea what the story is, what the background is. So over time throughout the session, it becomes a conversation. It becomes a revelation. It becomes a therapy session where people can then ask questions of their loved ones. And the beautiful thing is that a lot of times when people come in, they don't know what to expect. And truly, that is the best to have an intention, but not have an intention so specific that you're only going to feel it was your loved ones if you get this specific thing. Unfortunately, that's not me. I can't read your mind. And the divine is always going to filter and protect information on the other side. So I'm never going to get information and I'm never going to be told, don't tell them that. That's never going to happen. I'm going to tell you everything I get. And I can't promise to have all the answers, but I can, through my many years of experience, offer different perspectives. I can tell you about suicides. Suicides. They're all in the hands of God. I know there's some stories that if somebody takes their life, they don't make it to heaven. And in from what I've known and what I've seen, that is simply not true. This life is hard. It is challenging. And I have learned after working with so many people that we all don't make it to our destiny. Sensitive souls on this planet need a lot of kindness and gentleness and compassion in a world that can eat you alive, honestly, that can manipulate and control and pick on and bully. And that is so hard to digest for a highly sensitive person to understand how a world can be so cruel. I still struggle with it to this day. But I have to say, the work that I do gives me the ability to forge on, to process the cruelness of this world because it exists. And it has been the very thing that has rooted me in my faith with Jesus and Mary Magdalene. They are my teachers, guide, mentors, best friends. Of course, God and the archangels. Of course, Mother Mary, the goddesses. They're just powerful energies that I work with, this right-brained, womb maternal energy. And so sometimes people come in because they have questions. And like I said, I can't promise you to give you the answers you want to hear, but I can certainly connect you with your loved ones in very specific ways. Let me take a minute. Let me see what I want to say about that. What's been happening recently is there has been so much more dementia and Alzheimer's. So sometimes I'll be in a session with a client and I'll be explaining or giving them specifics about a person that is actually still alive. And maybe they're in a nursing home, or maybe they're going through dementia and Alzheimer's in a nursing home, or maybe they're advanced in it. So that has just started happening recently, that I'm able to connect with people's loved ones that are still here, who are struggling with Alzheimer's and dementia, and their souls and their spirits will tell me what they want. I had a client once whose, believe it was her mother, who was in a nursing home, and she just didn't remember my client anymore. And for me, it's so gutting. It's such a difficult thing to go through, to lose a person you love while they're still alive. I get emotional thinking about it. Um, and all her mother wanted was for her daughter to read her a book, to bring her in stories and read to her, even though she maybe have been wiggly, or even though she might not have understood or paid attention. And I believe, if I recall the story correctly, like her mother loved that when she was like had all her wits about her. Sometimes they'll talk about their passing, so often, if you got somebody who's strong, a very strong-willed person, sometimes they will hang on. They'll hang on until one of their loved ones says, "You can go, Ma. Go in peace, Dad. We'll be fine." My God, I think about it. And they do, and they go. I would love to know the conversation people have with God. Because I'm going to be honest, friends, being a highly sensitive person in this world is just hard sometimes and overwhelming. And sometimes I'm like, God, I'm all set. I've done my work. I'm good. And those are usually the times that I'm maxed out and I need a break, and I just need to stop what I'm doing for a while. And yet then some people are like, God, I'm done. And God takes them home. And it's so profound. It's so incredible. I mean, there's so much that I've learned. I don't talk about this very often because I feel like these sessions for people are just very private and very sacred. And I have so many stories to tell about the stories of things that happened during these sessions. But I digress. Let me get back to the sessions. So again, sometimes I can get insight and information that can support people with their loved ones that are still alive. Maybe they're in comas. Like again, maybe they've checked out to some degree. Sometimes people ask me, like, how long is a good time to wait before they come in? When a person passes, it's instantaneous. I have had clients book appointments, and then in that interim, or that week or two before they came in, they lost a loved one. So they booked the appointment before that loved one even passed. And then they came in for the session, and that loved one came in. And so, in a lot of ways, it can be instantaneous. So I always say, come when you're called. I'm not going to tell people you have to wait a year or you have to wait months, because I know grief. I know the peace that comes from these holy, sacred messages that come in to support humanity. I can also tell you anger is a very real part of the grieving process. And it is very true to say people come in angry. They're angry about the situation, they're angry about the circumstances, they're angry sometimes at themselves, at their loved ones. And sometimes that grief can put people in an egoic state. Understandable, absolutely understandable. But they can come in almost in a demanding, bullying kind of way. No, I understand it. And it is part of our humanity. So I don't take it personal. What makes my job hard is that I can only give you what the divine tells me. I can't make stuff up. I cannot read your mind, and I can't tell you what you want to hear. I think that's a little bit of the challenges about all these mediums on TV, because people have an emotional experience when they watch those readings online. And sometimes they come in, they know it or they don't know it, wanting that experience that they saw. And sometimes that's just not the reality. And I feel really bad about it, but I still, God employs me. God gifts me with this energy, and I have to hold it true. So I can tell you, every single person that has come in has gotten what they needed. And I'm not going to lie, some people have left upset because they didn't get what they want. And I feel really bad about it. Honestly, it would bother me. For a really long time, it would bother me. And I'm like, God, why can't you just give me? Why can't you? But again, it kind of reminds me of, like, if you give a child candy all the time and you tell them no, they're going to be upset about it. So I've also, as a medium, had to navigate my way through the grief and the shadow and the world and the content pollution that's out there for fame, fortune, money, all those things. Because there's a duality in this, obviously, this field. There's a shadow and light, and it's all meant to teach in some form, but I always pray that I remain in the light. And there are just some things I can't do because they're not in that highest light. And that's just me. Honestly, it is none of my business what other people are doing out there. It is none of my business what people are saying and doing. I mean, obviously, I get tidbits of what's going on. I am not online. I'm not on social media, honestly, because I love the work that I do. I hold it sacred, and I just don't want it to get in my head what other people are doing. Honestly, sometimes I struggle with insecurities, and I don't want that in my head. I trust God. I trust that the people who are coming have found me for a reason. I truly believe that people's loved ones pick me. I can't even tell you how many beautiful Catholic, or I should say religious, Grammys that I've channeled. And they love me. I love them. I think that's the fun part of my work, is that I get to work with families. I get to work with your families. And so sometimes sisters come in, sometimes cousins come in together, sometimes husbands and wives come in together, sometimes mothers and daughters and fathers and sons. And we get to sit for a little while and reminisce. And we get to tell stories. And I get to hear about people in their lives. And there's something that is so beautiful about these stories and reminiscing. And I love it. I love to hear about people's lives. There are so many good people and good families in this world. Yes, we all have dysfunction to some degree. Yes, things have happened that are less than ideal and we prefer not to experience again. And yet, to the very core of it, it is so beautiful in the grand scheme of things. I have worked with people who have come in for sessions and have then passed away and then channeled them in spirit. When I do my work, I feel like I make connections with people. I think that's a big part of my work, is that everybody who comes in my office feels like family, feels like they can be vulnerable and they can share and they can cry and that it's okay. And so I think that's one of the interesting things about my job, is now I've been doing this work so long that I am starting to now work with people in the spirit world who have passed on, who I channeled messages from their loved ones. It's incredible. It's incredible. I don't like to talk too much about this stuff because honestly, I honor it so much that it's just so sacred. But then again, that vulnerable part of me is like, so many people can benefit from this work in a healthy way. And if I can share that I was afraid of the spirit world, I was afraid that God was going to punish me, that as a Catholic, I was going to hell by channeling these things. And I just feel like a large part of my clientele were deeply religious and spiritual people who were told the same things, and yet they just want to connect with their loved ones. They want to tell their daughters or their sons that they did a good job and it's okay, that they're going to be okay, that they're with them. It's so beautiful. I think that's the part of me because I make connections with people and then I find out they passed away and I struggle as a human with, gosh. And then I'm sitting with their loved ones. And sometimes those people, they camouflage themselves. Sometimes I don't know it's the client that I have had. And obviously it comes out over time, but I think it's beautiful how the divine filters that because it gives me an opportunity to keep my own brain and connection with that person out of it to channel the most authentic messages. That happened recently with this beautiful, beautiful woman. She was just a beautiful, kind, just generous soul. And she was grieving so bad. She lost her husband. He died in her arms. And her granddaughter brought her in to see me with her mom as well. So it was um, the granddaughter, the mom, and the grandmother. And I sat here with them and we just reminisced and she just it just brought her so much peace. And I just found out that she had passed away tragically. And her grandkids came in to see me and I didn't know it was her until I asked a question and they told me. And I thought about it after. I'm like, hey, how come I didn't know it was you? Because I am always learning. Every session is different and I am still always learning. I am not a second, third, fourth, or any generational medium. Like this truly was God's gift to me. And God has been raising me since I tempted fate that day and said, prove it. So I had to learn a lot, not necessarily in a hard way, but in a just learning a lot. So afterwards, I thought about it and I was like, why didn't I know it was her? And I realized that she had camouflaged herself to keep my own feelings and sadness out of the way to give them the best message they could. And I just feel like she channeled the whole session for them and encouraged them to continue doing the plan. And they left, and this is my life. Now, because this is my life, I am very regimented. Okay, so let me say this. I hold this work in such a high regard. I value and know that every single person that's coming in wants to hear something or needs to hear something from a loved one and is seeking peace in some fashion or form. I take that job very seriously. So, my personal life, I just cannot have chaos and drama and nonsense in my personal life. I tend to cocoon. I tend to spend a lot of time on my own. I tend to do a lot of inner work, a lot of therapeutic work on myself so that I can truly be present and show up for the client. Clients book appointments on birthdays, on anniversaries, on special days, on their birthdays. And so it's very important for me that I'm healthy to show up for that job. So I eat very, I want to say regimented because I enjoy food so much. But there's a lot of things I don't eat. There's a lot of things I don't do anymore. My husband and I have been sober for over 3 years now. And it was a personal choice that we both made for different reasons. And honestly, I've been able to my work has just deepened in so many ways. I stay away from white sugar. I stay away from dairy. I try to stay away from gluten. Like, I know to the mainstream world, it's not fun, but it just, I feel so much better and peaceful when I am eating clean. I do fasts. I'm very regimented in my sleep. And honestly, by the grace of God, I met a man who we are equally yoked, basically. He did a lot of work before he met me. God prepared him for me and me for him. Yeah, God prepared him for me and me for him. So it is really beautiful to share this journey with a person in my personal life who meditates and does yoga, and we go on walks and we live a clean life. And it's very boring to the mainstream world. But to us, he's highly sensitive as well. We talk about he's on the spectrum, high functioning, and he's such a creative, kind soul. And I find that my work is changing and evolving because there's more men out there like him that are starting to come into the office and be curious about their life purpose, about their loved ones. I've worked with veterans who have lost people in very horrific ways in war. And they have come in, and people that they knew and friends came in immediately for them. And there's been healing with that. Now, I tell these stories, but I can't promise that it's going to happen. But I can tell you it has happened. And it does happen where people come in and get healing and they get support. Mediumship groups are another form of mediumship that I do. I can host up to 6 people at my office. And I have done groups of like 20 in a home. And I think those are my favorite groups. And I say there's a lot of things that are my favorite. I just love my job. I love my work. I love just working with energy. And one of my favorite things is sitting with family in a big room with the Grammy and the daughters and the daughters' daughters and the cousins, and the husbands start filtering in, and they're all sitting around, and I'm channeling, and we're telling stories, and they're reminiscing, and it's fun, and they're drinking like mocktails and sometimes cocktails, and they're having snacks. And I'm such a family oriented person. Uh, as a quadruple Cancer, sun, moon, rising, I say this often, but it's important. It's an important detail of like how I'm able to do this work. So my sun, my moon, my rising, and my Mercury sign are all under the sign of Cancer, which is the mother, which is the highly psychic cardinal sign of the zodiac. And so basically, what you see is what you get. I have a stellium in the first house. All these planets are in my first house. So what you see is what you get. I can't hide who I am. I can't pretend and be fake. It's just not in me. So, oh God, mediumship. The groups. And so I love to go in and sit with families and hear their stories. And that's a fun part. I no longer do small groups in home. I've moved farther away, and it's harder for me to get into points of Rhode Island. Mostly I work with, Rhode Island and Southern New England, and that's kind of changing for me for a little bit. But I do love when a group of friends come into the office. Sometimes there have been groups that have come in of 3 or 4 people who one of them lost the mother, and the mother was like the mother to all the girls and the friends. So I love working with friend groups. And to be honest, for a moment in time, I feel like I'm part of that family. For a moment in time, I feel like I'm part of that friend group because my life is just so different. I just can't be around so many people and so many energies so often. So when they come in, there's this part of me that just kind of feels connected to them a little bit. And then they go off of, obviously they go off and they live their lives and they send their loved ones to me. And that's just how I've been able to sustain all these years. But the mediumship groups are so beautiful. Friends come in. There was there was a group that came in who lost young girls. I think these girls were in their early 20s, and they lost one of their girls in that group. And it was just, there were so many questions. I can tell you, girls, if you know something is off, trust your guts, trust your instincts. And they were able to come in and they were able to get answers. Their friend was amazing with giving them information. And it was so supportive and so healing. And, I just look, I'm like, this is my job. Like this, I'm truly helping people. And people are truly, I shouldn't say helping people. It's more of offering peace. I am gifting people with a deeper sense of peace and a knowing, because I know how losing someone you love so abruptly and not understanding it, not knowing where they are, can be so disruptive and so life-changing. Like it just stops people from living. So that's a big part of like my tagline, empowering you to say yes to life. So I help people work through the shadow stuff, the darkness, the evil, the difficulties, the challenges, the adversity, offering them some insight to bring support, and then maybe their lives will go change. Maybe they'll be the therapist, the counselor. Maybe they'll go and develop different types of rehabs or drug programs, or maybe they will get involved in an organization that's helping cancer patients in the world. I mean, it's just incredible how God uses the dark, the evil, the false light for good. It's just, we have free will on this planet. And sometimes free will and those free will choices kill us. Unfortunately, it happens more often than not. And yet God still loves them. God still works with them. And some souls take on assignments. Some souls who have passed maybe from cancer and they're still upset about it, or they passed from an overdose or a suicide, they're able to take what they've learned, and they're able to help other people in the world who are channeling new programs, new thought streams, new ways of doing things. Just like I'm able to channel people's loved ones to bring comfort and support. Oh gosh. What else can I say? Mediumship groups. All of these sessions are available on my booking site, Setmore. If you just search Heavenly Hugs Setmore, or wherever you're watching this video, I'll put a link in the comment box. Or if this isn't a newsletter, just click the book now link, and all of these sessions are available to book in office and online. So I can do Zoom. And if you're connecting on Zoom, so I can work with people all over the world. I have, as far as Korea, quite a few in London, starting to make my way in Canada. Where else can I think? And some Australians. I don't know how people are finding me, but they're finding me. God bless them. And so you can book right online. Super easy. And now I have a booking site that will translate the time zones. So it's much easier if you go online and you set your time zone, it will show you all the appointments available in your time zone. And then if you're booking online, in your confirmation email and your reminder email, you'll get the Zoom link. And at the day of your session, at that session time, you click on the link and boop, there we are. Like we're sitting in the room together. It's so great. I love technology. And then also too, it's so challenging. Anyway, so if you're coming in the office, you can book online a single for just one person. You can book a couples session. A couple session is for anybody, really. If you want to come in with your friend, if you want to come in with a family member, if you want to come in with your partner, romantic partner, That's really that couple session is for anybody. It's for two, basically. And then there's a spot for 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I do want to say if you're coming in with a group of 6 and you would prefer a Friday night or a Saturday, excuse me, a Friday night or a Saturday night, please reach out to me via email on my website to request that time because those time slots are not available. But if you do want to do a group of 5 or 6 at the office on a Friday night or Saturday night, I can certainly do that. I do not work on Tuesdays and Sundays right now, but because the bridge here in East Providence, if you're from the area, if you know, you know, has made it very difficult for people to come here. So unfortunately, I've lost a lot of business for in office. Thank God I have online still. Because East Providence, they're still not East Providence, but Rhode Island is still figuring it out. So it's very difficult to get here peak hours because of the traffic. So I am thinking about opening up Sundays for a little bit to see how that goes. But we'll see. Let me see what else. Oh, and finally, I offer pet mediumship. I've always been able to connect with people's pets, but I've never offered it as a service. And sometimes it does come up in people's readings. But now I have a very specific slot for pet mediumship. And what I'm finding in the pet mediumship, I had a soulmate doggy. I call him my soulmate. He was my soulmate, the love of my life before I met my husband. And it's funny because my husband and him are similar in a lot of ways. They're spirits, and they met like 3 months apart. So I met Nick in June of 2021, and Brownie passed Labor Day weekend, that Friday of Labor Day weekend in September. So he knew Brownie, my little Brownie boy, for a moment in time. And I'm so grateful because Brownie loved him and Brownie was mine. He did not care about other people. He was not friendly, let's say, in the sense that he just wanted everybody to pet him and be around him. He was kind of like me, introverted and leave me alone. But he was mine and he loved me so much. And so he passed. And I believe that that opened up so much more for me because I can understand. And Brownie picked me. I did not want a dog. Brownie showed up in my life and he picked me. And I still feel it deep down in my soul. Like he saw me and it was love at first sight. Oh God, I miss him so much. It's been what, 4 years? Anyway, so that's the energy I bring when people are coming in to connect with their loved ones. I've connected with horses. I've connected with obviously cats and dogs, bunnies. What else? I mean, I'm sure there are others, but those are the main ones. And then I've also started to do work where people have asked me if I can do mediumship on pets that are still alive. What's beautiful is the pets always tell me what their purpose was, what they were here for. So when you're coming for the pet mediumship, yes, it is to connect with your pet, but your pet is always so proud to let me know the job that it did. And it will tell me just like your loved ones, it will tell me very specific stories of things that you did with them, they did with you. I mean, it's just really miraculous. This work is truly, truly miraculous. So I've started doing more of that as we have honored pets and their souls and their spirits and their messages so much more now than ever. It's another lovely session I offer. And all of those sessions, online, the in office, the groups, the pet mediumship, it is all on my booking page under mediumship. You just click it in the drop down menu and you can just pick what you want. I've tried to make it really easy because I just can't call people back all the time. I just can't be on the phone. I'm either here or I'm home doing things, and I have just paid for technology that really works and makes my life a lot easier. So you can just show up and have your experience. And then finally, at the end of a session, sometimes, if there's enough time, I might pull a card from your loved ones. I have a deck that I use. It's called Talking to Heaven. And I think the hardest part about my job is that I know I can connect people with their loved ones. I know I can tell stories. I know that we can reminisce. The hardest part about my job is that I know that you still have to leave without them physically. And it's so wonderful to sit and have this experience. But when it's ending, it's hard because, again, they're still physically not here. So I like to, at the end of sessions, if there's time, there's not always, pull a card to send you off with. And basically, the idea is that your loved one is going to send you off with a message. And sometimes those cards make the whole entire reading. Sometimes those cards are the absolute thing they needed to hear the most. And people take pictures for of them, and sometimes if they're doing something great and they pull a card, the card comes out that says you can do it, and it's like a big leap of faith, or remember me by the happy memory. I mean, it's an experience. These sessions are an experience, and I feel like I get just as excited, curious, intrigued as the clients that come in. It never gets old. Every single session is interesting, and it's profound, and it's an opportunity to learn. And so I am a type of person, I want to work. I want my services to be affordable for people to be able to come in and heal and grow and learn. And I just feel like that service. Now it's a little risky because, people have to spend their money. Like I have to rely on people having a good experience where they're going to want to share it with their friends, because my work is, and my business is predominantly referral based, or people find me online. So I always, always, always am grateful that a person has such a good experience that they then go and tell their coworker, their bestie, their parents, their friend, that, hey, I had this really great experience. And then at some point, those people come in. I always say, come when you're called. You'll know. You'll know. The divine will let you know when it's time. And I'm here. That's my job. People come, people go, people check in. I work with them for a period of time, support them in this part of their life, and then they go off. And I just think that is the beauty of service. I can offer my gift in the way that I do it, in the way that I know, the exchanges that I'm learning. Obviously, I am making a living doing this work. I spend my money in conscious ways. I spend my money because I know people are spending their money, and I honor that. And it's important to me of that energy exchange, that when people are coming in, they're having a great service. And then I go and spend that money on businesses that I care about, on uh, services that I value, that help other small businesses, that nourish my body, that is able to care for me. Like, money for me is just such a beautiful energy, and I honor that. So when you share your money with me, know that that is also going back into a frequency with other earth angels, with other beautiful businesses, and things that are going to bring joy and value. And, I have a very simple life. I'm very well taken care of. My life is very simple, and I prefer to keep it that way. So, and it gives me the opportunity to sustain in these highs and lows in the economies that we're in. It's just, that simplicity and that value of money and frequency and people and the work that I do has allowed me to sustain these last 18 years. So I hope this has given you some more insight into who I am now, the work that I do now, and know that it's ever changing. I mean, there's so much that we can create in this world. In our world, I'm recording this in December of 2025. There is so much that's changing in this world, that there are so many jobs, there are so many things that Earth Angels are going to create that don't even exist yet. I mean, it's just wild times right now, and I am just intrigued. I mean, God is amazing. We have to remember that God is so good, and really everything is truly, truly, truly in God's hands. So I thank you for listening. I thank you for your support over the years. If you've had sessions with me, the reviews online really help tremendously, but I do also know that these readings are very private. Earth angels are very private, and I know it's also challenging to put yourself out there, especially because people come in like with those taboos in their family, like it's weird or they're going to a charlatan or somebody who's going to like bring them into a cult, and yes, that happens. I don't want any part of that. I want people to come in, feel amazing, and go live their best life. Like that's at the end of the day, I close space, I go off, and I have a beautiful personal life that is very separate from the work that I do. And so, oh gosh, I forgot what I was saying. It's time to end. I have a session in 10 minutes. So, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, anything that I can support you with, I always say, come when you're called. That's what I would say. You'll know when it's time, you'll know when you're ready. You receive a digital recording. I record every single session that I do. You'll get it in an email afterwards. If you're connecting on Zoom, you will get an audio and a video version. If you're in the office, you will only get an audio version, and you can have that forever. All right, friends, it's a pleasure. Thank you for listening if you've made it this far. It truly is a joy to talk about my work. I just love it so much. And I send you love with heavenly hugs. Bye for now. Hopefully, I'll see you soon.